Hello, I'm Maleen Saeed in Istanbul. We start with Puerto Rico, the U.S. territory reeling under $72 billion of debt. It says there's no way it can make its latest scheduled payment of $1.9 billion, resulting in its biggest default so far. The crisis has prompted action by the U.S. Congress, which passed a bill on Wednesday to restructure the debt. But the whole situation is complicated by Puerto Rico's status with the United States. As a territory, it doesn't have the same privileges as other U.S. states and cities. For example, when Detroit went bankrupt, the full protection of the federal government kicked in automatically. But a rescue package for Puerto Rico needed a special bill in Congress. The deal is known as Promesa and has only just passed after months of wrangling. In the meantime, the situation for people in Puerto Rico has become even more desperate. Dubenskij reports.
This is the image most people associate with the Caribbean, golden sands that stretch for miles. But the tourists who come here for some downtime rarely see what life is like for locals. Just a few minutes walk away, it's a different world. It's estimated around 45% of Puerto Ricans are living in poverty. But here in the municipality of Loíza, the rate is said to be far higher, with some community leaders suggesting 90% of the 25,000-strong population are struggling. This project in Loíza offers free educational and cultural activities. Run by Maricruz Rivera Clemente, it also provides a handful of jobs, something that's hard to come by here. For her, the reason this community is so poor boils down to a single issue.
I think is the racism is the worst issue that we have here, because the concentration, the majority of people here is black. So when you look at the other poor community in Puerto Rico, we are poor, I mean in Loíza, but we are also black.
Loíza lacks many basic services like healthcare, and access to education is patchy. Studies show a similar story in other parts of the island too.
We found not only that the poverty line in Puerto Rico is large and it's increasing, but also that our inequality gap is quite broad, and that the most affected populations are women, children, and persons with special needs.
Back in Loíza, people hope Puerto Rico's economic woes can soon be mended. But they fear that until that happens, more services here will face the chop. Dubenskij, TRT World, Loíza, Puerto Rico.
Well, Charlotte joins me now from Puerto Rico's capital. Charlotte, where do things stand now that this debt deal is done?
Well, that $2 billion was due to be paid today, Maleen, and we have been hearing from one of the utilities companies that they will make their portion of the payment. That amounts to around $400 million, so less than a quarter of what is due to be paid. Now, on Thursday night, the governor of Puerto Rico signed into order 2 emergency clauses to say that the rest of that debt wouldn't be paid. That happened at the same time as the Obama administration signed into power the bill Promesa, which is about restructuring the debt here on Puerto Rico. Now, I'm joined by one senator who disagrees with that debt. It's Senator Miguel Pereira Castillo. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Charlotte.
What is your issue with Promesa?
Well, my issue with Promesa principally is that it, to my view, invades the province of local powers. The nature of our relationship with the United States suffers by this kind of imposition. For years we've thought that our relationship with the states and its government was more one in the nature of a compact or an agreement. It appears now that I have been mistaken as to that, and they wish to exercise power over our finances.
One of that power is this oversight board that is scheduled to start operation in early 2017. Why is that such an issue that you have a board to restructure debts when this island has been unable to deal with its recession and its debts now for 10 years?
Well, because first, the reality of the economic recession is not addressed in Promesa. It does not bring any program or assistance or anything else that would allow us to better our economic condition. What it does do is impose upon the people of Puerto Rico an additional $400 million expense for the operating costs of this board. In essence, they're coming to Puerto Rico to use our revenue money in a way which they see fit, in a way which, as the legislation recites, must include tax payment in a schedule which they approve. And it's simply an imposition of additional costs,
but if this bill hadn't been approved,
yes,
you would be defaulting on $2 billion today. Litigation is already happening in the courts in the United States.
Right.
Where would that have left this island and services, crucial services, which are already suffering financially?
Well, if you review a little bit of the history of the Promesa Act, when it began, it actually did that. They said, well, the first thing and the only thing we're concerned with is the payment of bondholders. We exist as a government for a different purpose, acknowledging that we have to pay back the bonds. Nobody's suggesting otherwise. But we're not happy. I'm not happy, and I think the people of Puerto Rico, if I may speak in their name, are not happy with the additional features of the peace. We're not. One could have understood a compromise with the people of Puerto Rico that said, look.
I just want to ask you very, very briefly, you have said that you would resign if this act,
right,
this bill was signed. It's been signed. Will you resign?
I have not. I decided not to do that because my Senate colleagues asked me yesterday, and they did so in a public conference, to ask me to stay with them and join their voices in opposition of this.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Senator Miguel Pereira Castilla, one of the opposing voices of this bill. But this bill is now in power. Promesa is enacted, and we understand that the Oversight Board, which will restructure the debt on Puerto Rico, will be in situ from early 2017, Maleen.
Okay, Charlotte, good to speak to you. Charlotte Dubenskij there for us in Puerto Rico.